I'd like to welcome Shock the Toast to this episode of Crossing the Streams. Welcome, Toast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to have you here. So Shock the Toast is your handle. You're here on Twitch. You've been on Twitch for a while now. But for those that don't know who you are, what you do, why don't you take a moment and describe your Twitch channel and your community?
I've been really watching Twitch since like fall of 2019. And then I started streaming in January of 2020. So I started right before, the world went crazy. And so been streaming for a couple of years now. One of the things I've really tried to focus on is mental health. And that was something I wanted to focus on before everything. And then it became even more of a significant thing with everything that's happened in the last few years. So mostly I just, I'm on Twitch. I don't do a lot of other content creation. And my streams are, it's mostly Lego, occasionally other games, or occasionally games. One of the things I like about Lego is streaming Lego specifically is the fact that it's a lot easier to like keep up with chat and everything, as opposed to a game where you're in the middle of something going on and you can't take a break. And it just, what words am I looking for? It's just a good thing to be able to stream and be able to stay engaged with everyone and just talk about things, because I want my community to be a place where people can both just get away from like whatever else is going on in the world, and in their lives, but also be able to talk about things if there is something that you just need to talk about. I want to be a place where I and others can be open about mental health things. I struggle with depression and anxiety, and I have ADHD, and so regardless of anything people are going through, that whether it's something that I have or not, I just want it to be a place where you can talk about that, and whether it's just people needing to open up or whatever. I just hope it's a place where people can feel comfortable and kind of find a family here on Twitch.
I really like that. I think that the internet is huge. The internet has a lot of places where I don't think mental health or having a support network is a priority. So I'm glad to see that yours can be one of those places that does help with that particular thing. And because you do a lot of Lego, I would love to, hear about kind of the Lego side of things. What, tell me about your history with Lego and brick building.
As a kid, I loved Lego. I was always, I don't have a lot of memory from when I was a kid, but I actually have a relatively high percentage of my memories involve Lego. I enjoyed Lego a lot. Some of my earliest sets I remember getting are, I can't remember exactly what set, but it was a small classic space with a blue spaceman. So, when Benny was in the Lego movie, that was that was great. Some of the basically classic space and some of the classic castle. I didn't have a ton of them. I was always jealous of the big castle sets. So now that new one's coming out, that's
oh yeah.
One of my favorites though was a Forestman set. So that GWP they just did was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I grew up with Lego, and then it was one of those things where I don't know that I really outgrew it. I just didn't have the money to buy Lego myself. And so in college, I remember picking up a few sets because I'd run into them, especially if like clearance, because I do have a couple of the Star Wars sets from around there. And that's kind of what brought me back in general, was some of the Lego, when they started doing Lego Star Wars stuff. And partly I picked up some things on clearance, which, it's a little cheaper when you get on clearance, and then it sucked me into, paying full price. It kind of ramped up as I got more stable employment and stuff and could afford things, then the amount of things I purchased increased. At that point, I didn't know a lot of people that were into Lego. I had a couple people that I met that were employees at Toys R Us that I made friends with. And I remember one of my friends had like a huge collection of sets she hadn't built, and I was like, "What's up with that? How do you buy a set and not build it?" And I'm looking at the backlog, and like, I understand that now.
Yep. So it seems like Lego's always been a part of your life, at least in and kind of in and out a little bit, but it's never really completely left it. And then with Twitch, you started streaming, and it sounds like you started streaming on Twitch kind of around the same time a lot of the like when the pandemic rolled around. Is that correct?
Yes. just shortly before. Interestingly, I went to Bricks Cascade and in Portland, and that was like end of February, beginning of March 2020. And then I got back, and then I worked from home ever since because like
Yeah.
everything started shutting down right after that. So yeah, so that was basically for a long time. That was the last thing I'd actually like gone out to do was go to a Lego convention, and I haven't been to many. I think that was actually only the second one I'd actually been to at that point.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier when you were kind of talking about your Twitch channel, you said you'd been on Twitch for a while. How did you get started even just using the site or watching Twitch in general?
My Twitch account is actually older than Twitch, which is funny.
Mm.
That's which I didn't realize until like it came up at one point because you can see people's account age, and that's because it turns out I had an account on Justin TV, which I don't even remember, but Justin TV was the predecessor to Twitch, and they rolled over the accounts. So it took me a while to figure out why my account creation date was older than Twitch. But way back then, it was like I signed up for somebody was doing like a fundraiser stream or something, and I watched Twitch once every 5 years or something. The way I really got onto Twitch was I'm not big on usually on watching people play games a lot. And so I was like, I just thought that's what was on Twitch. It was, I think, August 2019. So try to give the quick version of the story. I finally picked up some of the Overwatch Lego sets, and I'd never played Overwatch, but some of the sets were really cool looking. So I finally picked them up. And I was displaying some of my Lego sets at work. And since I just picked up some of the Overwatch sets, I had some coworkers that are like, we play Overwatch all the time. You got to play with us. So I'm like, okay. So I started playing with them. And it was right after that they did a Lego skin for Bastion, and they had a whole Lego event. Part of it was you could unlock like sprays for the game by watching people streaming. Yeah. And one of the people on the list of people you could watch was Brick and Nick. And I'm like, I did not know this was a thing. People doing things besides playing games in general, but specifically building Lego was amazing. So I started watching Brick and Nick. And then started from there. I found all sorts of other people in the community, and just rolled from there.
That's I love that story because on Brick and Nick's episode, he's actually acknowledged many times where he said, he said something along the lines, I'm sometimes the gateway to other Lego streamers. And I've heard through many other people who have just been in the community, whether they're a viewer or a streamer, have often referenced the Brick and Nick connection. So we found another one today. So you found Brick and Nick, so Overwatch was kind of a catalyst, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So
it went from Lego to Overwatch back to Lego to Twitch.
Yeah. And so you were watching it on Twitch. How long between when you started watching Twitch and then you decided to start streaming?
I think that was September 2019 that I started actually watching. I think that's when that event was. And I'm not sure how long it was that I was basically just watching Nick before I started finding other people, but it was January that January that I actually started streaming. But I started thinking about it a few months before that. I actually started like upgrading my computer and stuff. So because I had other people that were, it was mostly because I had people that were like, you should stream. Are you sure?
Yeah.
And so the Lego community is just so amazing. And at that point, it was a much smaller community and in many ways, more tighter knit, just because there wasn't a lot of people. There's still the community is very tight knit for the size of it. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's kind of how I got my start. Is I had people encouraging me to stream, and but I knew fairly early on because I found one of the channels I found was Heart Support, and their mental health organization, and so I and that and other streamers that like I'm not the first Lego streamer who's had a focus on mental health by a long shot. So I knew I wanted to incorporate that, and I found that like Lego has just been really helpful for me in that because it's something. Like when I have anxiety or something, just building something is just a really good release from that. It's a distraction for one thing, which sometimes distractions can be a good thing in those situations. Sometimes they're healthy. I want to do more custom stuff, but a lot of times in those situations, the fact that you can just follow the instructions and you're not having to think about those things, and it's
Mhm.
not another stress of like having to figure that out. You're just until you get the stickers, and then the stress
Right.
comes back. So I definitely knew I wanted to, and I found as I was watching streams, it was helping me too with a lot of those things. And part of it too was just finding more Lego people because I'm in a smaller area. We don't have a lug, we don't have conventions in the area, and so I didn't have as many connections with other people. And it wasn't until I went to back in 2016, I went to my first Lego convention. Like, there's a lot of people that are really into Lego, like more than I am as far as how much effort they put into all these mocks and everything. But one of the things I love about Twitch is just the fact that yeah, no matter where you are in the world, like you can just connect to people that have the similar interests. But I have there's quite a few people that watch my streams that aren't into Lego, as in they don't have a big collection. They like a lot of people they like Lego, but they're like, it's expensive. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But you can just make those connections with people and just form communities with people that you would never be able to meet in real life, most
Mhm.
likely. I mean, you can meet up with people afterwards, but it's not like you're most likely not going to run into them in your everyday life.
It definitely makes it so easy to connect with others, right? Especially when you're
Mm.
given a platform where, a platform like Twitch is really nice because you can connect based on your interest on games or your interest on stuff like Lego or
Mhm.
making and crafting things. So it's a wonderful catalyst to make that connection with others, which can then allow you to build a community and find others who are into the same sort of things uh, as you. I really think that's a great story in terms of why you do it and how you want to use your platform and your channel. You mentioned that you are a mental health streamer, and I just wanted to hear a little bit more in terms of how you address those topics or that kind of focus as a Lego streamer. What how do you make all that happen?
Um, so for the most part, I generally am not bringing stuff up unless it's in the context of um, like just people asking me how I'm doing. And one of the things I've struggled with is that balance between like being really open and honest about how I'm doing versus like not wanting to just sound like I'm being negative or bring people down. The balancing out, sometimes I'm still trying to figure that out of when like how much I talk about like things I'm going through, but partly because I want it to be a place where people can come and get away from those things. It's finding that balance too, as well, just between being able to share things and go through talk about things, but it also being a place of where people can get away from things that are going on too. But I definitely want people to be open and honest about things if they want to talk about things, and not if they don't want to talk about things. I mean,
Hmm.
not being open and on or not being honest, but not having to feeling like they're forced to share anything.
Right.
Um, so as a general rule, don't bring a lot of things up generally, but I just try to make it a place where if somebody wants to talk about something, that it's
Hmm.
totally open to. And sometimes it does naturally flow out of like people asking me questions. I'm like, well, I've been going through this, and so it turns into that. Um,
Hmm.
so I want it to be a place where people feel comfortable to discuss those things um, without um, there being any pressure to share more than they're comfortable with sharing or anything.
Hmm.
Um, and so I just also wanted it to be a place where people know that they're supported and let people know that they can get a hold of me if they need to talk at other times off stream. Fortunately, that's one of the benefits of being a small content creator is that's actually a possibility for people who
Right.
have like huge audiences, huge lists of followers or subscribers. It makes them a little trickier to be able to do that. But at this point, I can definitely just be like, hey, anybody can message me if they need to talk about something. Or um, and for me, my faith is a big part of it. So one of the things
Hmm.
that if people are going through stuff and they have like they want to ask me to pray about something or something, they're free to ask that as well. but I also don't pressure anyone on any of that. Like you don't have to agree with me on beliefs at all to be part of the community, to be there. And I don't
Mhm.
ever want people to feel like they need to. I just want that all to be available to them
Yeah.
without the pressure.
Yeah. When you talk to your community about some of these things that come up, have you found there to be any moments that are increasingly, kind of tough to navigate? And
Mm.
how do you navigate those things?
So far, I haven't run into a lot of that. So, like I
Hmm.
said, with having been part of the streams of heart support, that's
Hmm.
kind of helped because I've watched them deal with some of that because they have whole parts of their programming, let's say, because they have a
Yeah.
bunch of different streamers that stream on that channel. But they'll have parts where they just talk about like people have posted something that they're going through, and they talk about those things. And so I've been trying to learn from that, just how they handle those things,
Hmm.
and I'm not an expert at all. And so far, I haven't had a lot of things that come up that are really like there's times where people are going through some really heavy stuff, but
Right.
it's more of just they want to talk about it, and I just kind of just being there for them. And it's
Hmm.
not so much usually about me giving them advice on things, especially there's
Right.
lots of situations I haven't been through. I can't give you advice on it, but I can
Right.
you can be here if you want to want to talk to me about it. And if people specifically ask me questions, I'll answer the best as I can. And
Mm.
I'll also I want to tell people when I don't have an answer. It's like
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to try to make something up just so I sound smart because usually that's
Yeah.
when you really look dumb for one thing.
Yeah.
But I also
Definitely.
don't want to do anything that's going to send somebody down like the wrong path.
Yeah.
So and that's a good point that Lady Miss just brought up. That my community has been really fantastic in that. That a lot of times, the community members will be fielding each other's questions, and then somebody in the community will have gone through something similar or have some experience with that. And so, one
Hmm.
of the great things about a community is not just me sitting here telling people like this is what you should do in this situation. Um,
Right.
there's other people that have ideas, and then the community in general is just very like just we're just going to be here for you. We don't necessarily know the answer,
Hmm.
but we love you and we're glad you're here.
I think
Um,
that's
yeah.
wonderful. I'm curious, what kind of resources do you keep on hand for people who are seeking more support and more help?
Most of that is the heart support stuff. I
Hmm.
will direct people to Heart Support's website has lists of resources, and one of the things Heart Support does is, um, like I don't think they have anybody on staff that's actually a therapist or anything, but they have lots of resources they can direct people to.
Yeah.
They have a lot of things like that where and and I'll just direct them towards their website or their streams because you can talk about some of those things in their streams and stuff. I don't, uh, yeah, like I said, I'm not trained in mental health like educationally or anything,
Right.
but I just want to be able to direct people to somewhere where they can get help with things.
Right. When because mental health is such an important focus for the channel, and you're also a brick builder on stream. How do those two things play with each other in terms of like the content that you're creating and then
Mm.
having those conversations at the same time?
I mean, sometimes the building stops while we're talking about stuff.
Right.
Sometimes, and depending where my headspace is, there was one time that there was like 30 or 45 minutes. I think I was building, and I didn't even. I was talking, and I realized like I didn't even realize I was still building, and I just built like half of this.
Yeah.
But a lot of times there is like there's breaks and things. It depends. With Lego in general, the nice thing is you can stop between putting any two pieces on.
Hmm.
Like there's not a lot of things except when I'm applying a sticker. Like when I'm applying a sticker, it's like I'm probably going to focus on this until I'm done with this sticker, and then I'll answer the question. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you can stop at any time, and when it's a basic part of the build, there's a lot of times I can just keep building while I'm talking to people. Probably the
Yeah.
reason why half the time I miss putting a piece on or something. I'll just claim it's not my fault. But I think it's just really good because of that because you can adjust the pace at any point. You can build faster or slower. You can depending on how much is going on in chat, how many if people are asking questions. And if somebody asks a question that's really deep,
Mhm.
and like something that needs to stop and have focus, or just somebody said something like something tragic has happened to them, you can just
Mhm.
take a moment and be like, "That's like, I'm really sorry you're going through that," and let them know that it's an important thing. And I try to tell everybody that if you need anything at any point, if there's something comes up, like I can stop building at any time. And I don't think I've really had this happen, but like I've tried to let people know if like there's something really going on and you need to talk to me, I can
Yeah.
stop the stream and talk to you like offline. Like
Yeah.
I can completely stop. That's because the people come first. Um and it's an easy thing to stop in the middle of. It's not like a multiplayer game where like my team's relying on me. And if I just like
Right.
disconnect, they're probably gonna be mad. But
Yeah.
yeah. So it really lends itself to that.
I like that. I like, and you hit on something earlier that I really, uh, I feel the same way in terms of like I build Lego to also not just relax, but I also find, uh, there's some calming aspects to building. There's some
Mhm.
very just almost therapeutic parts to it where, like you said this earlier, I like to build sets because there's something nice about just, following directions, working through, putting the bricks together, and just it kind of puts you in a better place by being able to work on something um, with predefined steps. And so I really think it actually complements a lot of the talk, the mental health talk, or
Mhm.
talking about how someone's doing, or even offering some kind of support when that someone's maybe going through something, or they just want to talk to someone about how their day's been. Um, I really think that's very cool. When you were getting started in streaming, uh, did you did you know that you were going to kind of continue on this trajectory of really focusing on mental health, or did this just kind of take shape more so over time?
It was definitely a focus from the beginning and something I figured I'd keep, but I wasn't sure exactly what it looked like, and it's changed shape over time. I didn't
Hmm.
like have a good game, like an in-depth game plan or
Right, right.
anything of exactly what it would look like. It was more of a I want to stream and I want to be able to help people, and I don't know what that looks like. I'm just going to go live, which that's a very short version of it because there was a
Of
lot of
course.
like stress before I actually started of like having to get everything right. I probably could have started streaming earlier, but I was like, I got to get my setup right. I've got to get all these things right. And then
Yeah,
there
yeah,
was,
yeah.
got to get the lighting right. And my lighting at the beginning was very, very low budget. And now it's like high end, low budget. And so it was really just like, I'm still figuring it out as I go. So there's, I can't say that in like a year or 5 years, if I am still streaming, that it will look like it does now. I
Yeah.
know that I want there to still be a focus on mental health. I'm up for it changing because, like I said, I'm still figuring it out at this point. I'm not an expert on anything, and
Yeah.
maybe I come up with some brilliant thing to do in the future, or just it reshapes because, or I see somebody else do something brilliant and I copy it.
Sure.
um,
Yeah. My question is someone who does focus on mental health and focus on that kind of support system with your community, what do you wish you had known going into streaming on Twitch
hmm,
that would have maybe helped you with that mission sooner, or just how you
um,
address your community?
I guess for one thing that it's okay for me not to be okay
Mm,
because that's kind of I mean, and there's definitely times that I haven't streamed because I wasn't doing well where I needed to take that time off. But it's
mhm,
also okay for people to see that I'm not like that I'm going through rough times because and the thing is it's something that I experienced from the other side, but it just my brain didn't my brain still wants to say, okay, I've got to like always show that I'm okay. But it's actually helpful for people sometimes to be like, yeah, other people aren't always okay. Like I
mhm,
can be not okay because other people and other people are not always okay. Because one of the things we get from social media and all these things is people are always trying to put their best self forward, which I entirely understand. But you get this idea that like content creators are always doing okay. Like you see these people, and I think more and more like various content creators are like are opening up about some of those things.
Right.
It's becoming more and more acceptable. But you see so many people that your perception is like they're like, look, they're always having a good time. They're always having fun while they're in their videos and stuff, and you just think everything's always good for them. And that's not the case. And whether
Yeah.
that's like Instagram and everybody's pictures are smiling and happy all the time, or if it's on YouTube and they're just, or if it's on Twitch, because Twitch, there's a certain element, because obviously since it's live, yeah, like you can't edit out the bad parts as much.
Mhm.
So, but people, like I know I'm really good at masking and just pretending things are okay. And one of the problems with that, besides it's not the best thing for yourself, is
Mhm.
it just leads people to think like, yeah, why am I having a tough time when these other people are always okay? Like whenever I
Right.
see them, things are going fine.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely, there's something inherent about, when you're looking at social media, right? Whether it be traditionally the social media we think about, Facebook, Twitter, things like that, or Instagram, but then,
Mhm.
even video platforms like Twitch and YouTube, on those places, generally any of those, people see what we generally want people to see, right? So often people will put their best foot forward. They'll see, they'll show all the good things that are going on, but you never really hear about how someone's struggling. And so, um, like you said, with the whole, it's okay to not be okay, is definitely something that I admire in terms of that statement, and presenting that, right. It's okay not to be okay, and I think that's totally all right to have that honest conversation with your community, with communicating that to your community and your viewers. Do you find any other challenges as a streamer who's mostly focused on mental health? Are there things that are harder to navigate than what you would expect other streamers go through because you're so focused on almost mental health and support?
Mm. I mean, I think whatever you're doing, you're going to go through different things that are difficult. And so it's hard to say that certain things are more difficult for certain people than others. And a lot of like I've noticed a lot of people, especially a lot of the Lego community, like these kind of things do come up. It's not
Hmm.
may not be a focus, but like somebody in chat will be talking about something, and sometimes people bring stuff up at inappropriate times. It's like, no, this isn't the time or place. And sometimes, but I've definitely seen times where people bring stuff up, and a streamer who hasn't declared that mental health is a focus of their stuff will take time for that person. But probably the hardest is when people are going through just really serious stuff, like especially with just like thoughts of self-harm, that kind of thing. And
Right.
that hasn't come up a ton, but I also want to make sure that people know that if they're going through something, they can talk about things. I don't
Hmm.
want people to not feel like that, but it is difficult partly because it's hard to know what to say to people. Even as somebody who has gone through um, some of that myself,
Hmm.
that it's hard to know what how other people's minds work, and what will be like helpful to them versus what's gonna uh, make things more difficult. So
Yeah.
that's probably the hardest is when those things come up, and I don't know how often other people have to go through them, but it is something that, to address those, it's something that because I welcome that it definitely comes up occasionally. It's not super often, but I can definitely see that going forward as something that may come up more, and maybe something I have to become more versed in how to handle.
Yeah.
So um and just in general, there's a lot of times when people are going through things, it's the not knowing, because it can be just difficult, like emotionally, to not know what to say to somebody, not know, it's like I can't just say something's going to fix it for you,
Hmm.
and that's hard because I'm a person that likes to fix things.
Yeah.
um and knowing it's just getting better at knowing like sometimes the right answer is not to try to fix it because you don't have the answer. It's just like I said, letting them know that you're there if they need to talk, but that it's just having a place where they can be and talk about those things, because sometimes it just helps to talk about them.
Right.
So
I think that's really important to be able to speak to that and say, or at least approach those conversations not necessarily trying to fix a problem, but being there as a sounding board, or just, to listen and accept them, right, for whatever it is they're talking about or needing to talk to you about. I think that's I have a history of being also wanting to be a fixer as well, right? Wanting to fix things. And that is definitely one of the things over time, and as I've become much, like older, I found that some people just, they don't want a solution per se. They just want to talk. They just want to go through and talk about the things and have you listen to them.
And that's something that, one of the things that frustrates me with myself is that I will know that I'll have times where I want to tell somebody something that's going on without them trying to fix it. But then I will do the same thing to someone else, and I'll be like trying to fix it. And it's like, so just like being more aware of like, yeah, I'm doing the same thing. Like I need to I know that, like, I can't always know what people are going through, but in a similar situation, as much as I can, like, would this be helpful to me? And if this wouldn't be helpful to me in that situation, like, let's not go there.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, no, I love it. I love what you're doing. I love what your community is about. And I mean, I we've noted some of your inspirations, at least, to kind of do what you're doing. Do you have any other folks that inspire you on Twitch, on the platform, that to kind of do what you do?
Like I said, heart support's a big one. I haven't been as active in that community lately because I just haven't been as active in a lot of communities lately. But they were definitely a big one that inspired me to both to pursue this and kind of in some ways how to. One of the things that they do, there's a number of people that stream on there. When I first started watching, it was really the main ones were Dan and Casey, and they would sometimes have times where they were talking together, and they'd sometimes address things, but they like things people were going through, and sometimes they did separate things. But one of the things that Dan does is streams what he calls creative encouragement. Actually, they both do that, but what he'll do is he's a really good artist, and he'll just draw something, and he'll be drawing something for someone who's going through something. It's like, what would you like me to draw? What your favorite Pokemon or Transformer? Or we kind of bonded over our mutual love of Transformers, and so I told him about the Lego Optimus Prime. He was pretty excited. But it's just really cool that it's a very similar thing where he is drawing while talking to people about things. And drawing is a similar thing where you can stop to address something. But then he's doing that just to both a space where people can talk about things. But it's really cool how he does that, where I drew this picture and I'm sending it to you. Or sometimes he's drawing a picture just because he wants to do a picture, but then he'll end up giving it away. Like, we'll just, who would like this, and they either do a raffle, or somebody's been talking about something they've been going through, and he's like, I'm sending you this picture if you want it. And that's just really cool. So that's definitely been a big inspiration. I've tried to figure out, it would be nice to do something like that, but it's a little hard to just build a Lego set and send it to someone there. Rough time. That's a little harder. But yeah, that's something I would like to, and that kind of goes back to some of the previous things we talked about. Is that's something I'd like to figure out how to integrate something along those lines. I just don't know how to at this point.
I like the idea, though. I really do. I think if you could figure out the logistics to that would be really really awesome. Yeah.
If anybody has any great ideas, let me know. At this point, I haven't figured it out. But it's just everything they do is really, really encouraging to people. And it was really helpful to me because when I first found their channel, because I was going through some really tough stuff right before, like late 2019, just like going through mentally, not necessarily stuff in my life per se, somewhat. But if anybody goes through, who deals with like chronic depression and anxiety, knows that there's not always a one-to-one relationship between what you're going through and how you're feeling. Like sometimes, like if something really tragic happens, it's going to make those worse. But sometimes everything can be going pretty normally, and then things just get really rough. And that's when I found their channel, and that was really helpful. So I've kind of wanted to, learn from what they're doing. there's a lot of trying to think of everyone. There's been like just a lot of encouraging people that I've met on Twitch. Miss Ruby Falls is a craft streamer that I found pretty early on, and she's just a very, very encouraging, very positive person.
Mm.
Super Shiggy, a music streamer, is I don't know if you've heard of her, but she does amazing music streams. But it's also very like that was something that often helped when I was dealing with anxiety was
Mhm.
her streams. And it's been just really interesting finding what a variety of things there are on Twitch of different people streaming different things than just games. But
Yeah.
even within games, you've got people who have different focuses and people whose focus is just being the best whatever game player ever, and then people whose focus is on their community more, and they're like, I might not be great at this game, but I just want to hang out with you guys and play this game.
Yeah.
So I've learned from a lot of different people, just ways to address all those things, and just so many people. There's been a lot of people in the Lego community that are open about those things, about mental health things, and it's just I've been encouraged by all of that, and try to take what people are doing and try to figure out how to apply some of that. But like I said, like with the creative encouragement stuff, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how that applies. But there's just a lot of people on Twitch that are very encouraging and very and not just encouraging, because sometimes like just being happy all the time doesn't necessarily help people. But
Yeah.
people that are encouraging but also like real and they'll be there for you.
I like that. I really do.
Mhm.
I found that, I think in part because Lego, like you said earlier, it allows us to stop and talk and have conversations with our community, and
Mhm.
it really facilitates a lot of moments where someone's like, "Oh man, I'm having a hard time," or "I'm really struggling right now," and it facilitates those conversations. It's almost in a lot of ways it makes us as the creators and the streamers more approachable, because they know that generally, I mean, it's been my experience anyway, when I'm in a Lego stream, like the builder, they're glad to stop. They're glad to stop what they're doing and have a conversation. And I think that very much
Mhm.
facilitates a lot of that supportive and open dialogue that I don't think you get to see on a lot of other places on Twitch, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a medium to just kind of I don't know if medium's the right term, but yeah, there's a lot of what was it? Oh yeah, a lot of times on Lego streams we're talking about like Lego news or other things, but a lot of times, I mean, there might be something really cool going on in the build you want to talk about, but there is a lot of times where there's just there's not something that you're doing at the moment that really needs to be talked about specifically, and so there's a lot of time where people are just going to be talking about like how's your day going,
Yeah.
and those sorts of things, and so it just kind of leads into that. So that kind of happens, like you're saying, whether somebody has a mental health focus or not, you just asking people how they're doing. Sometimes that kind of well, how I'm
Yeah.
doing is not great, and it just kind
Yeah.
of goes into that.
Yeah. I've often experienced that myself when I ask someone
Mhm.
who comes into my stream, "How you doing?" And
Yeah.
often it's, "Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing fine." But then every so
Mhm.
often you do get that moment where they're like, "I'm not doing so good." And then you're like,
Mhm.
"Okay, let's talk about it. I'm building
Yeah.
bricks here, and let's talk about it."
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
do.
not gonna affect negatively what I'm doing if we talk about it. Let's just
Exactly.
like, yeah.
With the Lego community being such a big part of what you're involved in here on Twitch, uh, and you've been in it for a while
Mhm.
now. How has the brick building community changed since you started?
Well, when I started, it was a lot smaller, and I know it had grown a bit at that point because I know like what Set to Build and Brick and Nick are probably the two longest ongoing builders, and they've been what 6 years now, I think 6.5 or something.
Yeah.
And so obviously, when they started, the brick building community was like them. If I remember correctly, their story is they started about the same time, but not they didn't know each other, and they just discovered they were both streaming, and they started like the same month.
Yeah.
um, when I started building, there was more people, but the number it really wasn't hard to basically be able to check out everybody's streams. Like sometimes people were streaming at the same time, but there was not that many people, and there was people around the world, so streams were not always like at the same time, and so I could watch people's streams.
Hmm.
Yeah, kind of when quarantine hit, the number of people streaming in general went up a lot.
Hmm.
In like Twitch statistics and not just Twitch, just any streaming platform, because people were stuck at home and couldn't do their normal activities, and people just wanted to give it a shot. So the number of streamers in general went up, and the amount of people interested, or the amount of like Lego sales went way up. The number of people doing Lego stuff went way up because it was something you didn't have to go out to do, and you just had to be able to obtain a Lego set. And for a while, sometimes that was harder. Stock
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
But between those two, then of course that leads to the number of Lego streamers going up, and people who were already streaming that were like trying Lego on stream. Sometimes I've run into people that they build Lego a lot in their free time, but
Yeah.
they just hadn't tried doing it on stream, and then they try it and they're like, I thought I was the only one doing this, and then they get raided by a Lego streamer, and they're like, oh, there's the
Oh.
Lego community.
Yeah.
So the community has grown so much between just all the new people coming onto Twitch, and also just people watching. There's been a lot more people watching Twitch, so there's a lot more within because I don't want to say the Lego community is not just the people who stream Lego, it's the people involved in chat and all those things. So
Yeah.
that's just grown so much that it's of course changed things because of that. It's just such a bigger place, and I know there's a lot of Lego streamers I probably don't even know exist yet that
Yeah.
have been doing things for a while. And
Yeah.
so it's just meeting those people, and it's awesome. There's something, in a way, there's something sad about not being able to be in like every Lego streamer's chat because
Yeah.
there's more people. But yeah, I think it's awesome that the community is growing.
Yeah.
And it means that there's like where anytime you get on Twitch, you're gonna find people building Lego, like multiple many people building at the same time, probably. It seems like, and I think that's awesome. I'm glad that it's really growing. I remember the first time. So, like I was saying, I went to Bricks Cascade right before quarantine, and
Right.
I went. I met up with Miss Tapcat. Oh, Dr. Cat Builds. Miss Tapcat was her username at the time. Sorry, Dr. Cat
Yeah.
Builds,
Yeah.
and her husband Jason, who is a cooking streamer.
Yeah.
And I had obviously met them on Twitch. That was the first time that was the first time I'd met anybody in person that I knew from Twitch. But when we were at the convention, we talked to people about like doing Twitch streaming, and there were so many people that were like, "What's that?" or "That's kind of weird that you're building one." And now it's so much. It seems like even outside of the Twitch community, there's more people that are like, "Okay, that's not so weird." Like that makes sense. I think partly just because streaming became so much more common in general. More people understand what it is. I still have people like I have people in my family that I think like that have found out that I stream, and they're like, "What's up with that?" But
Yeah.
it's I think just in general, it's become a much more accepted part of the Twitch. Of the Lego community, the broader Lego community, the broader AFOL community,
Yeah.
and everything. So the landscape of it has changed quite a bit.
Yeah. Where do you see it all going? Now that I mean we've had kind of this I would say humble beginnings 6-ish years ago, right? Where we've only had literally a handful of people doing it, and then it's slowly grown since then. And then when the pandemic hit, I would say it kind of saw quite the boost in terms of people joining the community via either streamer or viewer. Now that we're 2 years past that, where do you see the community going from there?
I think at this point, I've kind of learned not to try to predict anything. I don't know, like everything kind of seems to.
Sure.
Every time I think something is going in one direction, it seems to go in a different direction. But I think I don't know. I think that just the fact that there's more acceptance within, like, I think Lego as a company is probably understanding more of like that streaming Lego exists and stuff, and various various AFOL groups and stuff that's going to shape things. I don't know exactly how. That I think there's gonna that I don't know if I don't know that I really can predict. Not only because I'm not just afraid of like being completely wrong, but also I just don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to I think those things are going to all play a part in it. That I just don't know exactly how. I think there will be people that are like on Twitch that will end up being like really well known that we may not have even heard of yet, like within the general community but yeah.
I'm really surprised that we haven't seen a well-known streamer make a total shift to Lego as content. And I have a feeling we'll eventually see something like that. I feel like it's a matter of time because I've seen a lot of well-known streamers who have pretty decent sized audiences who they'll do one-offs where they're like, oh, I like to do Lego once in a while. And you'll see them do that as just like a one-off stream or something that they do. But I have this feeling that, I mean, statistically, especially with the rate at which Lego is releasing products that are more like I mean friendly to adults as well. I mean they've been doing a good job of that for a while, but they're continuing to ramp that up. We saw the Horizon Zero Dawn set that came out not too long ago, and there were a number of streamers who regularly streamed games building that set on their channel. I think that is probably one set in recent memory that I had seen so many people start building Lego that don't normally do that on their channel. So I feel like more things like that. I think that and like the NES have been really great for that, where you got these gamers here on Twitch who are already streaming. They're like, oh, cool. Video game set really, maybe pulls them into Lego. And I feel like it's a matter of time that maybe we'll start seeing people with, and that's when I get really excited for the Lego community, is when you get some of those streamers who decide they want to incorporate that more into their content, or it becomes a main focus. I mean, like I said, we haven't really seen much of that. I'm one of those people who have done that exact thing, but I'm not very well known. So, but like seeing someone who has a much bigger audience, I feel like it's a matter of time and we'll see something like that happen. So.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I think the more they do video game related sets that are those larger, like 18 plus aimed sets, like there's all the Mario play sets, which are not as likely to bring in somebody who's like a big game streamer like that.
Right.
They might be interested, but like the NES, the question mark block, the tall neck, you're gonna see if they do a lot more of that. That's a really good point. That seems like that would be more and more picked up. I think some of the other pop culture related stuff kind of ties into. You get things like the DeLorean and Star Wars in general. There's so much overlap between like people who like video games and people who like Star Wars. So that's probably right. But of course, that's been being done for forever. I think one of the things that's helped with like the Horizon Zero Dawn set is just something new too. Whereas like people knew Lego Star Wars existed, but it was still kind of in the same box in their mind of Legos for kids, and this is Star Wars stuff for kids.
Yep.
And so even though that they've come out, there's been UCS things forever. But it's still kind of more compartmentalized in people's minds, I think. But then like they see the tall neck and they're like, wait, they did the Horizon Zero Dawn set and this thing is gorgeous. Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's, you made really good points about how that's going to draw more people in. There's some things that's like, it makes perfect sense, but I hadn't thought about it quite that way. But yeah, I'm curious to see like when we get the first one of those for somebody who's really well known. Just either shifts to Lego or just starts doing Legos a more prominent, like once a week we do Lego here. And on like a really big streamer. Big,
I've seen streamers who are considered even big for our community, but are kind of like more mainstream, right? They do mostly gaming, but I've seen a couple of those who have an audience of like 100, 200 plus people. Some of them are starting to like pick up on Lego. And I feel like even that will begin to kind of shift the attention to the community. But I thought that was really interesting. Breach in chat was wanting, maybe have you give a small tour of the builds that are behind you. But I feel like that's a lot of builds. I know this because I have a lot of builds too. But if you could tell me about maybe some of your favorite builds that you've gotten to do on stream, I'd love to hear about them.
Okay. And that's tricky. It's kind of like when people ask me my favorite set in general. I have such a hard time. It's like usually it's the last thing I built that was really awesome. It's like this is my favorite. I built it 2 weeks ago, and it's because I don't remember. I don't have a great memory. And
do you have like speaking of memory, then how about most memorable builds for you?
Some of that is the big sets, which. There are some amazing things in the smaller sets, but when the Ninjago City sets, I still haven't built gardens, but I have Ninjago City and Ninjago City Docks. Welcome to Apocalypseburg. Those things, they're memorable partly because they take a lot of streams, and so you got this like for a couple of months we've been working on this thing, and so everybody knows that those things are great, and those are up here, but they're off camera, and I've really been liking a lot of the sets that they're doing that are really good for display because they're easy to see on camera, either in the background or like while I'm working on things. Like when you get something like, mirrored camera, like R2D2 or Yoda, Grogu, and the NES, any of those that are just like, I love the treehouse, but like here it's really hard to see. I don't know if you actually see everything on the camera view, but like the treehouse, like there, it's really hard to see what's going on. It's a beautiful set in person. But some of those they lend themselves more to being on camera because it's just easier to see what's going on when you're building something larger. And now if it's a very small set and you just have the camera close, that's one thing.
Yeah.
The R2D2 was great, and we just built that recently. But I'm just stuck in that, like, what's great? This thing I just built. I did love the NES. I love the both the TV, the functionality in there, but the greatest thing is probably the cartridge. That you if you haven't, for those who haven't seen it, it's like a regular or like original US NES. Like the cartridge slides in, and then you push it down, and it clicks in. And if you push it again, it clicks back out, and you can pull it out. And the fact that they made that mechanism is just amazing. It just I love some of those mechanisms just because first of all they're fun. But one of the things I like is that like as you're building it, a lot of times it's like I don't even know what I'm doing here. Like I kind of have an idea what it's going to be, but it's like what's going on here. But it's also just that's something that's great for the viewers when suddenly that comes together and they see, wait, this little cartridge thing works awesomely. I'm sure that like as soon as the camera's off, I'll be like, oh, my favorite set was actually this.
No, that's fine. I get it. The favorite set is a hard question. I know. I mean,
the Optimus Prime, which you have behind you. I don't know why I'm pointing because I'm not even pointing at the camera. But you have the Optimus Prime right there. That's amazing, and I'm in the middle of building that. So I've got the very kind of.
Oh, look at you! Yeah, you're getting there.
He's got his arms. But that's gorgeous, and I have like I love Transformers. I grew up. I didn't have a lot of Transformers as a kid, but I loved the idea, and I had some of more of the off-brand ones, the GoBots and stuff. But I was actually collecting Transformers for a while, but that kind of got lost to I was collecting Lego and Transformers. It was like couldn't really do both.
Right.
So then when they came out with an Optimus Prime, I'm like, now I can do both.
Yeah.
It's just so gorgeously designed. It's just a beautiful. I just love it. It just looks great. And as far as I can tell, of course, I haven't finished it, but from what I've seen, like the transformation works great, and everything about it. It's just aesthetically pleasing. It's a fun build. It's just a great thing. At a slightly lower cost than some of the things like the Ninjago City stuff.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And one thing that I love with Lego is whatever you're into. My problem being that I like building like all sorts of things. But if somebody's just really into ships, like spaceships or pirate ships, or you're into buildings, you're into whatever, like Lego, there's something out there. Especially now that they're bringing back some of those giant classic castle inspired
Oh
classic
yeah.
space. I'm also wondering now, just to tie back to what you were just talking about a minute ago. I'm curious how many people that will bring in with the nostalgia of like this is something I built as a kid or had as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
or had a friend that had it and I couldn't. I didn't have that. I was jealous he had that. But now they've released this version that's aimed at adults, and it's a really complicated build. And so I can feel, I'm cooler doing this, because that's one of the things I think for some people. They're like, oh, I'm too cool for Lego. But then they come up with some of these. I'm like, I guess I can still do this. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that those may bring in some more people with that nostalgia. Some streamers that want to try
Yeah.
streaming that and stuff, and then we'll see how many people get sucked into the Lego community that way.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. I do wonder, because I'm sure that we're going to stumble upon someone that realized that, oh, I really loved the castle theme as a kid, and getting this gigantic Lego castle might be a really cool thing to do
massive.
for the first time, right? And maybe they'll stream it because they realize, I mean, the allure of a larger set is always interesting to stream. I think, whether you've been a Lego streamer or not. I mean, my first set that I built on stream, like, really, like, where I was like, this is what I want to do. It ended up being technically the R2D2. I went to order the R2D2 because I was like, that looks really cool. I want to do that. I haven't built a Lego set in years, and this one's a little bigger than anything I've ever built. Ordered the set, and then I got the back order email from Lego saying that it wouldn't get to, yeah. They're like, oh yeah, update to your order. You won't see it for almost a month. I'm like, ah. And so, I'd gotten really used to the idea of building this humongous set, not even streaming it. I just wanted to build a cool Lego set. And so I'm on the site shortly after I got the backlog email. I'm like, oh, look, they just announced the freaking Daily Bugle Spider-Man set. And it's like, am I really going to order another big set before even having gotten the first one? I think I'm going to. And then I ended up doing it. I clicked buy, and it showed up at my place like 2 weeks later. And then I had the box, and I was like, I was going to stream tonight, or I could stream tonight and build Lego on stream. And so that was kind of how, but I feel like people will do the same thing where they're like, oh, there's this huge anniversary or 90 years of Lego castle set. Totally going to build it. Or even, the Galaxy Explorer, the spaceship, set. I think you might be right in that potentially we'll see some people next month who will probably get in on all that, right? So definitely. You've seen and witnessed a couple years worth of Twitch streamers, I imagine, come and go. And I often ask people who have been on long enough, like yourself, what would you tell someone who is getting into streaming or wants to get into streaming? What kind of advice would you impart to them as they begin their content creation journey?
Some advice that I was given, and something that I think is good advice, but then I've heard people say the opposite. But I think it's generally a good rule to hide the number of viewers you have. Like don't look at that, because it's easy to like focus on that, and just know that sometimes like there can be people in chat and they're not chatting. Like it doesn't mean you don't have viewers. And if you just always act like there's people there and you're talking. And I guess one of the things that I would say is that helped me as a streamer is just the fact that I used to talk to myself already. So that just prepares you for it. Yeah. But if you just kind of, act like there's people there and you just talk about things the way you would if you knew there were people there. Because if people show up and there are no people there and you're just not talking, then they may show up and then leave because it's not interesting. But if you're talking, then they show up and then suddenly you have people there. Another thing would be to stream what interests you, because I know, and I think sometimes that applies from what I've seen to like game streamers a bit, is that the people will stream like what they think is the game that's going to bring in the viewers.
Right.
But then when you're not enjoying it, like it's one thing if you're like, okay, I'm going to pick between these two games. This game's popular and this game's not. And I enjoyed them both. Then that's one thing. But if you're like, this game's really popular, I don't really like it, but viewers are watching it, but it's same thing with Lego, and I think that's a good thing. If somebody's thinking about doing streaming and they like Lego, but they're like, I got to be a game streamer,
Yeah.
maybe try Lego, because
Yeah.
it's something. If you do something you enjoy doing while you're streaming. I mean, I guess that's not advice for somebody trying to get into Lego streaming. That's advice for somebody streaming in general, and that's not sure about like Lego. I'm like, maybe if you enjoy Lego, that's a good thing to try. But that goes just in general with that as well. Like, build what you enjoy building.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not a lot of Lego sets that I built that I just really hated the build process. Sometimes they didn't come out the greatest, or sometimes, and there's definitely, I'll buy Lego sets on clearance that I know aren't really appealing, but I want the parts from, and then I'm going to build them anyway. But in general, like, there's different types of sets I can build and I'll be fine. But if you just really only like building one kind of set, then build that. Like, if you just only like Star Wars, you only like Marvel stuff, you only like modulars. I mean, you may have an issue where there might not be enough in that collection, so you might want to branch out a little, just to, if you only build modulars, it's going to be hard unless you're starting out now and you've got all the whole backlog. But yeah, just know that people are there. Once you get a community, they're there for you more than they are for the specific thing. There will be people that show up because you're building the newest set that came out, and then there's people that will be like, they don't care that you're building a set that came out 5 years ago that wasn't even that exciting. But if you're enjoying it, like, that's more important.
That's great. I completely agree with that. I don't think this happens all the time, but I do agree that when you start to get people who are really serious about their content, or they're really like, hey, I really want to improve my watchability or whatever, you do get some people who are like, oh, I need to be building the latest, biggest thing, or whatever that might be. I mean, you see it more in gaming, right? People who want to play the biggest games or the newest game, but you can't do the thing that will get you more people because you think that's what will get you more people. You need to do the thing that you are truly interested in, because people who come to your stream, they see that you're doing what you're doing, and genuinely, if you enjoy what you're doing, you tend to be more interesting to either watch or relate to, right? You become more relatable to people. And honestly, those are the people that you want in your community, the ones that are very like-minded in terms of the stuff that you're either building or the things that you're interested in, right? So very, very...
Or if they're not like-minded, like you build only Star Wars and they're not really into Star Wars, but they're still coming to your stream for you, like, then it doesn't matter. They're coming for you regardless. And I just think it's really easy to get caught in that. And there is some truth to the fact that if you're playing the most popular game and you're really good at it, you're probably going to get a lot more viewers. But if you actually generally dislike doing that, then you're going to get burned out. Like, it's going to end up like it's going to, in the end, not be a net positive.
Yeah.
So
it's going to burn you out, and viewers are very savvy in that. I mean, even if you're pretty good at faking your enjoyment of it, I'm sure a lot of people would pick up that you're not, using that type of person as an example, right? Where that you may not, come across like you're enjoying yourself, and people pick up on that. They'll be like, oh, this person's not feeling it. They're gonna go find someone else within that same category that they'd rather watch or are more entertained by, rather than, maybe someone stumbles upon your stream, but you're playing maybe not the most popular game, or, not building the newest set, but you're clearly enjoying yourself. You're engaging with the chat. You're having a good conversation. Those people stick around. Is there anyone on Twitch that you would really love to collaborate with?
Yeah, lots of people.
Yeah.
Kind of putting me on the spot. Like, who? No, it's a fair question. There are so many people. Like, basically, like, anyone in the Lego community, I would. But basically, like, there's so many amazing brick builders I'd love to do stuff with. From, like, regardless of the size of stream. There's people that have big numbers that I'd love to work with, and there's people that don't have the big numbers, but they're just great people. But also, I think it would be fun, and I don't know exactly how it would all work, to do collabs with people that aren't Lego builders. I mean, it's
Mm.
one like I've played games with other streamers where, so I mean that's easy to play a game with somebody who's a gamer
Yeah.
streamer. But I think it would be fun to try to figure out how to do some sort of a collab where it's like I'm working on Lego and they're doing something else.
Mm. Nice.
I don't know exactly how that works. I mean, I think that'd be easy if both people are doing something like makers and crafting type category.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What's next for Shock the Toast and your community?
I would really like to do more content stuff. I haven't done anything with YouTube, any of that. It's just like it's been basically all Twitch. The only thing I've done is on like I did some like stop motion videos on Instagram and TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That I did the last 2 years I've done stuff for the advent calendars, and through December I was doing little videos of like of each of the advent builds.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it, and I really want to dive into more of that and just start focusing more on it, on just my content creation in general. I still have the notes that I haven't that I've started making and haven't finished, and
Yeah.
there's just a lot of things I want to do there. But there's still a lot that, like I was saying, that who knows what direction things are going to go. But I definitely want to do some more focus. I'd love to stream more.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's basically once a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes twice, and part of that is just schedule stuff. Part of it's like once I'm done with work, a lot of times I'm just like I just don't want to have to do anything. Like I just
yeah. I get it.
Right now it's my even I stream on Saturdays, but when I start kind of varies, and I just kind of want to get that locked down to more of like having an actual schedule. It makes it easier for people to know when I'm going to be live. So there's a lot of things that I want to work on, and I am also I'm open to suggestions if people have ideas. There are definitely ideas I have. So and lots of things that I have to get done. So if somebody has an idea, just because I don't use it doesn't mean it's not a great idea. I just might not have time for it. But if people have ideas, go ahead and let me know if you have some brilliant concepts for the Shock the Toast family of content.
There you go. I really love what you're doing with the mental health angle. I think that is fantastic. And I mean, I know that's pretty much what you're going to keep doing anyway, but I'd love to just, reaffirm that for you and say that I think that's a great focus for what you're doing, and keep that up. Definitely. I think that is something that I think it's vital and it's important. So, that said, now that you've gone through this whole thing, I like to do this thing for the guests where I ask them who would you like to see go through this that hasn't yet gone through crossing the streams.
Asgardian Studio.
Yeah.
And then Thrawn's Revenge are two that do a lot of mocks on stream and do a lot of studio work that are both awesome people. That might be interested. I don't know. I know Asgardian usually doesn't show his face on stream, so I don't know if he'd want to do that and how you'd you'd have a way to handle that. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Just trying to think, like, kind of branching out to some more, like, kind of like slightly different types of Lego streamers. There's quite a bit of variety in the community. But yeah, I think it would be fun to get some of those that do a lot more at the mock building. I mean, not that other people don't do mock building a lot, but the studio specific, I was thinking like some of the digital. They both do a lot of the digital, and I just think I'm not sure how much anybody you've had on has done digital stuff. I know a number of those people have done a lot of mocks, but and myself, when I do the mocks I have done, which I haven't done a ton, are generally I played around with Studio a little, and while I'm a computer person, I'm a programmer for a living. Like I really like getting my hands on and build it creatively, like just building with the bricks directly. But it would be just kind of fun to see that other side.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. And actually, Cranky Bricks last week said almost very similar thing. in
Okay.
terms of virtual builders, essentially, right? People using Studio
Mhm.
to design and build things. So great, very great recommendation, and I feel like that is definitely a place we should go. We should go.
Okay.
So where can people find you on the internet?
Twitch.tv/ShockTheToast. Most of my presence is on Twitch. I do have Instagram. I technically have a TikTok, but I don't use it anymore. I don't even
Mm,
have TikTok on my phone anymore.
mm-hmm,
But I have TikTok and Twitter. Twitter I mostly use for like announcements of streams. So
mm-hmm,
Twitch is most of it. Well, hopefully at some point I'll have a YouTube going, but right now there's nothing there. I do have a Discord which I'm not as active in as I should be. But that's another thing I need to work on. But yeah, um, Twitch is the main hub of whatever I'm doing.
Gotcha. As is customary for our guests, I often love to just give the floor to the guest for any parting thoughts. So before we go there, thank you so much for being here, Toast. It was fantastic to get to know you. Um, love to hear you. It was lovely to hear your story. And with that, the floor is yours.
Well, yeah, thank you again for having me on. And I think this is awesome that you're doing this and just spotlighting different content creators. And it's just a great place to like if you don't know any of the people that have been interviewed on here before, I'd suggest you all go watch on YouTube. Go watch more and more's previous crossing the streams because it's just a great way to find new people that are in the community, and I just think that's awesome that you've been doing that. And I just think that the whole like streaming Lego has just been a great opportunity. Just the community before I even thought about streaming, the community was just an awesome place to find, and I'm so glad that I found it. It's just been like great to find community and like I mean that's finding the community was great for finding community. It sounds really silly, but yeah, I think hopefully you know what I mean. That just
Mm-hmm.
finding people that have like interests and the fact that the internet has just opened up this where we can find people that we wouldn't normally be able to meet in person. There's a lot of communities on Twitch that are great, and I just love that we have these places where we can go and just find people that you know genuinely care about us and that we
Mm-hmm.
generally care about them, because that's one thing I've run into. A lot of people like I've had people that said that like if anybody you meet on the internet's like not a real friend, like that it's not an actual person basically. It's like that's not, it depends, because you can like it's what you make it. You can have really just shallow relationships just like you can in person, or you can really connect to people. And I'm not even sure exactly where I'm going for with this, except that I'm just very thankful that this exists, and I just hope to keep having a place that like anybody's welcome in, and just if anybody's looking for a place to hang out, and if anybody needs to connect or talk about anything, I want to be here for them. And I'm just glad to have that opportunity and have the medium where this can happen. And I'm just feel very blessed that like I remember at one point, like when I was like, I spent a bunch of money on Lego, and I just like build Lego in my house alone, and it goes on a shelf, and like mostly I'm the only one that sees it, except when I take it to my office when I wasn't working remotely. And just the fact that I had thought about like it would be awesome to be able to use that to like that somehow do something with that was more than just me building Lego by myself, but something that could, somehow affect other people, help other people. And that was like way before like I ever stumbled upon people building on Twitch. And the fact that I'm now in a place where that can happen is just amazing. And that I'm at a point where I can actually build things, and at the same time I'm making friends, building community, hopefully helping someone along the way is just awesome. And I guess that's what I have to say.